What it is, my 10 piece and grease here, and today we're talking about DevStream 137. Now, I typically like to do what I refer to as speed runs of the DevStream, just to bring a little levity as well as being informative. But I'm not going to be able to do that with DevStream 137 for two reasons. The first being that there's an absolute mountain of information I have to get through, and the second reason being that I have really nothing to bitch about. There's a couple little things I can kind of poke fun at, but for the most part, I'm actually really pleased with a lot of the proposed changes coming down the pipeline. I mean, I'm stoked. I really am. So with all those things being said, let's talk about the first topic, and that is Kuba Lich changes. Now, we already have the first part of the Kuba Lich changes on console as well as PC, and I've been experimenting with it, and I gotta say that it is such a vast improvement over the Kuba Lich system. God, it's so much better. And this is just the first part. There's still more to come. So, yeah, I'm really hopeful that the Kuba Lich system is actually going to be a bit of content that is freaking fantastic. Obviously, we can only hope, but it certainly seems that way. And I know that I've said it before, but let me say it again. Kudos to DE for recognizing that the Kuba Lich system needed refinement and getting to it. Yeah, got to commend them for that, man. They really did step up to the plate on that one, and I'm glad that they did. Now, with all of those things being said, the one big question I have to ask is, DE, where's my Kuba Sobic? You know Peace loves his Kuba Sobic. So, can we get a Kuba Sobic over here? What's up? All joking aside, though, let's move on to the next topic, and that is skins for Gara, Nova, and Garuda. Now, if you're a Garuda fan like myself, unfortunately, you got a little bummed out because DE didn't show us any of the Ruda skin. So we're just going to have to wait and see what that's going to be like. Hopefully it's going to be freaking fantastic. At least I hope it is. But as it stands right now, they did show us the Nova skin as well as the Gara skin. Now, in regards to the Gara skin, I will say that I don't love it, but I don't hate it either. I'm okay with it. I honestly don't like the way Gara looks just on release. I'm not a fan of her box stock appearance. So this skin I like better than that. So I think that that's some kind of an improvement. Now, if you like Gara the way she is right now, that's fine. No big deal. It's just not my cup of tea. Now, they did show also the Nova skin, and it looks fine. It does. I like it. The big problem, in my opinion, with the Nova skin is that there are currently... Hold on, let me do the math. 72, 96... Yeah, there are currently 257 Nova skins in the game. So, yeah, how is DE going to make this Nova skin look different from all the other 257 Nova skins that are already out there? I mean, it better release like gangbusters. It better be, just above and beyond what we saw on the dev stream to really differentiate itself from all these other Nova skins. Because as it stands now, while I like it, it's just kind of like another one that's thrown on the pile. So, yeah. Again, just my 2 cents on that. Now, DE did also talk about the pet changes again. Now, this is a topic that was brought up like 2 or 3 years ago, and nothing really ever came of it. So, I wouldn't hold my breath for these pet changes to finally come into effect. It may be another 2 to 3 years before they talk about it again on yet another dev stream. Who knows, though? Who knows what the future holds? Maybe they will actually implement some of these pet changes in the game. Don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But one of the ideas is to get rid of stasis, which is fine. This is something that we lovingly call the fridge. And I have no problem with getting rid of stasis. In fact, I guess the whole idea here would be that if you wanted to select this particular Kubro or Kavat, you would just go to the companion tab, where you could select a MOA, Sentinel, Kabat, Kubro, Helmet Charger, or have you what, instead of having stasis and having to bring them out of stasis and having all the cost that goes along with having them in stasis. So I think that that's a good thing. However, the big question that remains is, what about all the people like myself who spent plat on stasis chambers? Does that mean we're going to be getting a refund for all of those purchased stasis chambers? That's what would have to happen. But other than that, I don't have a problem with it. I'm not really hard-nosed about keeping my stasis chambers. If we don't need them, I don't want them. Let's get rid of them. But at the same time, there needs to be some type of compensation for the players that did purchase the stasis chambers. Just something to put that out there. Furthermore, one of the reasons why I always put my pet in the fridge is because if I, for whatever reason, have a family emergency, something going on, and I'm not going to be able to log on for a few days, I don't want my pet to perish. With that being said, if you go on vacation and you leave your pet out and about on your orbiter, you will come back to Warframe and Orders will break the sad news to you that your pet has expired. So that apparently is no longer going to be a thing, and that's fine with me. I have no problem with that. However, can we do something about DNA stabilizers, please? I mean, can we, like get rid of those damn things too? Because that's freaking annoying as well. Staying on the topic of companions, however, we will move on to MOAs. Now, DE has talked about some of the proposed changes for MOA, or as I like to call them, MOA money, MOA problem. But, bottom line, any kind of refinement or improvement to the MOA system, I think, is a good thing. Making them more fluid, making them so they're a little bit more resilient, I'm all for it. Something more unique, giving players yet another option as far as companions go. I have no issue with that. As long as it works, I'm okay with it. As it stands now, I know they were talking about a melee-only MOA, which at that time I was like, yeah, no, MOAs aren't exactly, great at the moment. They're not in a really good place, and adding just another one on the heap doesn't really hold a lot of interest for a lot of people, and rightfully so. So the fact that they would do some kind of MOA changes along with this, I think is a damn good thing, for certain. But with all those things being said, can we finally do something about friggin' mod conflicts? Please, DE. And if you aren't familiar, basically what I'm referring to when I talk about mod conflicts is if you have a MOA or a Sentinel, if you have, let's say, for example, a Hell's Chamber on your shotgun, as an example, and then you also put that on, say, Sweeper Prime, the Sentinel weapon, it will create a mod conflict, and it won't let you exit the arsenal unless you resolve it. So I always thought this was really stupid. Look, I own both friggin' mods. Who cares if there's a mod conflict? I own the friggin' mods, right? Like, stop making it a thing. It's making it a bigger issue than what it really needs to be. Like, oh, you have 2 or 3 max ranked Hell's Chamber? Okay, no problem here. Why I need to get a message every damn time telling me, oh, well, you've got the wrong max ranked Hell's Chamber on this particular... It is so frustrating when you have all of these Sentinel weapons and all of them have a different type of, Hell's Chamber, as an example here, for a mod, and every one of them is different from all the other shotguns you have. It is the most frustrating thing in the world. So can we please do something about that? Finally, DE. Can we please get rid of the stupid mod conflicts on MOAs, Sentinels, and now MOAs? God, that's just frustrating. Now, DE also did talk about the fact that they are working on another Nightwave, and this is freaking fantastic because we have been on Nightwave Intermission 2 for approximately the past 4 years now. So yeah, we definitely need an intermission, a new intermission. With that being said, though, goodness gracious, DE, can you please do something about prestige? There's nothing prestigious about prestige. 15 cred offerings, I've said it before and I'm going to say it again, is not worth a player's time to actually level up to get 15 cred offerings. Furthermore, we need an influx of new cred offering rewards, some unique items in here. As it stands now, this stuff's just getting really, really stale. Most of your experienced players already had a good majority of this stuff anyway. So, yeah, goodness gracious, do something about this prestige. This is just, it's still awful. I think if the prestige would have been better, DE would not have received as much flack as they did over intermission number 2. The biggest issue, I'm not going to rehash it. I did make a video on this if you were interested. But bottom line, most of the unique rewards in Nightwave Intermission 2, a lot of the player community already had because they were here for the other night waves, which ruined the entire experience of Nightwave. So this kind of failed in its one only job to keep players engaged. So yeah, hopefully some of these things are finally kind of brought to DE's attention and those changes are made. Again, we can only hope. Moving on, DE has talked about Simulacra Skin, for lack of a better term. I'm going to go ahead and call it a skin. And if you're not using the Simulacrum right now, why aren't you? I mean, in all seriousness, that may sound like a condescending question, but it's a very serious question. The Simulacrum is well worth the standing, the Cephalon Samara standing to buy the key. It is where you can test everything, all of your builds on everything, and it will pay for itself the first few times you use it. It is so worth having. Now, DE has mentioned that they will be adding a new skin to the Simulacrum, and that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. I'm not opposed to Simulacrum skins as long as DE doesn't go freaking hog wild and offer 20 different Simulacrum skins that are, 120 plat a pop. Yeah, that's not where I want to see this go. They also mentioned that the Simulacrum skin may be an event reward, which, yeah, I don't know about that part. The Simulacrum skin being a reward is just kind of questionable at this point. I don't understand the reasoning behind it. It just kind of is questionable at best. Okay, so with those things being said, they did also mention the changes to Titania. And most of the changes for Titania seem very, very promising. Again, I mentioned it in my Titania video. I don't typically use Titania. So the fact that these changes interest me and would probably get me to try Titania, I think that's a good thing. Obviously, we don't know. We have to wait till we actually get her before we know whether she's good or bad or ugly. But yeah, I'm still kind of hopeful on that topic. But this does bring up the larger question, which is, does this confirm Titania as the next Prime? Methinks so. Obviously, on the release order for Warframes, Nezha should be the next Prime. But because DE releases Warframes, Primes Warframes in a 2x2, 2 females, 2 males, we need another female after Ivara Prime, so that should be Titania Prime. I can tell you that I'm super excited about Nezha Prime, seeing what that's going to go, but that'll be the next Prime after Titanium, more than likely. So, with those things said, let's talk about Railjack. Now, I've given DE some grief about Railjack, right? In fact, I'm not the only one. Everybody has given DE grief over Railjack. But to their credit, you know what? They've been busting their ass on it. They have been, it seems like almost on a daily basis, they're talking about some other changes or improvements to Railjack. So I got to give them their credit, man. They're sticking with it and they're working their asses off for it. And as much as I would love to take kind of a pot shot here and there, I just can't. In fact, a lot of the proposed changes with Railjack, it got me somewhat interested. I haven't played Railjack since probably 2 weeks after its release. I haven't even been to the dry dock. But maybe I'll kind of stick my toe in there a little bit and see what it's about. Just kind of get an idea, get a feel for it, see if it has really improved or not. Again, the biggest issue that I had is the lack of depth and the lack of variety with Railjack. And I may have missed it, but I don't see any real discussion on those two fronts. So again, that may be something that's going to come down the line. Moving on, DE did talk about the new Warframe, and apparently her name is no longer Odalisk. Apparently it's going to be Protea now. Okay, DE, what is up with the name switcheroo here? I joked that this was the Vauban rework and you codenamed it Odalisk. But, the same thing could apply for Protea, right? Bobbin and Protea. Vodia, yeah. No, in all seriousness, what they showed for Protea looks really freaking cool. Let me just say that from the get-go. This whole like time traveling and being able to rewind time, really freaking cool. All right? Period, the end. Really freaking cool. However, the big question that I have to ask is it going to be useful? And there are several frames out there that have abilities that are a gimmick. Something that you don't typically use actually on a mission, but it's just kind of a gimmick, kind of a cool factor when it first comes out. So is this time shifting thing going to be actually a usable ability, or is it just going to be a gimmick where after a couple months when everybody has Protea, it just wears off and people just stop using it? So that's kind of the big question. Is it useful? But then I think there's another part of that question, and it's something that popped in my head when I saw this, and that is there going to be a limbo factor? Now, what I'm talking about when I mention limbo here is that limbo was one of the most powerful frames in the game. And no, I'm not a limbo fanboy. No, I'm not a limbo main. In fact, I don't even use limbo that much. But what I'm referring to here is that limbo was a frame that forced all the other players on the mission to adapt to them. Limbo could make a mission take 10 times longer than it needed to. Limbo could fail a mission. Limbo was that powerful back then. And this created a lot of animosity towards Limbo players and a lot of hatred towards Limbo players, particularly when there is a subset of Limbo players that I actually nicknamed the little Hitlers. Now, why did I name certain segment of the Limbo population Little Hitlers? Well, because typically what would happen with these people is you would go into a mission with them and immediately they would start giving you orders. Don't shoot guns in my rift. Use melee only. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, they became little freaking dictators with their little Limbo. Yeah, annoying to say the least. But that's kind of the point. Limbo changed the way players play style. They had to change the way players wanted to play the game. Oh, you want to use your primary or secondary weapon? Well, that's just too damn bad because we're in the rift and these enemies are in stasis, so you have to use melee. And this was problematic if you weren't even running a melee. What do you do at that point? Well, you just stand there. And so my point is here in all of this was that created a lot of animosity for Limbo. And the big question here is Protea's ability going to have some type of time lock on these enemies where only she can interact with them? Because if that's the case, I can see the Limbo factor occurring all over again with Protea. If players are going to have to stand around waiting for Protea to finish her little time rewind BS just to get rid of these enemies so we can get to the next wave, for example, that's going to be a friggin' problem. If Protea can stop the mission dead in its tracks, that's going to be a friggin' problem. And I think these are really larger issues that could potentially trip up this frame's design. As cool as it is, I'll freely admit it is cool. All right, I'm not throwing any shade. I'm asking questions, and I think these are really important questions to ask because you don't want a repeat of what happened with Limbo. To this day, people still will leave a squad because of Limbo. They will see a Limbo and they will peace out. So I think it's a really important question to ask. Okay, so lastly, the very last change we'll talk about is DE has mentioned that they want to add primary parts for kit guns. So you would basically take like a primary kit gun like stock, for example, and apply it to the secondary kit gun chambers and create yourself a primary. That's okay. Big questions here. Big questions. Now, it's no secret that DE has taken the old Nerf hammer to the Catch Moon repeatedly. And unfortunately, the Catch Moon is kind of a shadow of its former self. Don't get me wrong. The Catch Moon is still perfectly serviceable. Is it anywhere near as good as it once was? Absolutely friggin' not. But if you're a brand new player and you go and you build yourself a Catch Moon, I guarantee you would probably find your favorite secondary weapon in the game right here with the Catch Moon. Because it's still serviceable, right? Is it, again, it's a shadow of its former self for everyone else that already knows this, but yeah, it's a perfectly serviceable secondary. The point that I'm getting at is if you apply the catch moon chamber to like this primary kit gun part, then is there going to be some kind of a damage buff here? And what about riven mods? If you have, like myself, a catch moon riven gun, or riven mod, excuse me, and I make the catch moon chamber, I should say, I assemble the catch moon chamber with the kit gun stock, primary stock, does my riven mod still work there? And do I get a damage buff by making it a primary? Because as it stands now, some of the kit guns, I'm not going to use them as a secondary, let alone as a primary. So why would I do that? I don't understand the reasoning behind it, right? I don't even use the catch moon anymore at this point. So why would I be interested in taking a kit gun chamber and making it a primary? So yeah, I don't know, kind of questionable here. I don't understand the logic. I mean, I would be okay with it, except again, I don't understand the purpose behind it if it's still at a secondary weapon's strength on a primary. At that point, why wouldn't I just use any of my Kuba weapons that I have at this rate, right? Why wouldn't I just use those instead? You know what I mean? I kind of, the whole idea is kind of lost on me as to the purpose behind it, because there needs to be a reason that we are going to be using it as a primary, and it's going to need that damage buff. DE is going to have to give the catch moon back some of its stopping power that it previously had as a primary to really interest players at that point. And then, like I said, the big question is ribbon mods. What are you going to do with that? So yeah, I don't know, man. A lot of questions surrounding that. Obviously, we're going to have to kind of wait and see what comes of it, because we just don't know yet. But yeah, those are just some of my thoughts and opinions. Let me know down in the comment section what you think about anything that I've covered today. And until next time, peace and grace.